Hello, dear friends. The word meltdown came to my mind while I was sleeping, and I felt I had to develop this idea because it has many interpretations. I saw a mass of melted chocolate in a chocolate pot, but it is not a fusion in black, it is a fusion in gold. Opinion piece. System meltdown. Fusing in gold. It's like a game. Just like chocolate. Paradigm shift. Time is a mystery. Fusion of obsolete systems. Almost biblical reckoning. The system has a melting point. Everything is recycled to transform itself. It consists of melting a solid body. It consists of changing an apparatus of power. It is a union of interests, ideas and factions. It is the merging of the weak to become strong. It is the integration of several tasks into one. It is using the cinematic technique of fusion. People are transferring their money to their mattresses. It's not a two-way game, but a conglomeration. We are in a black swan since the war started. Two horsemen of the apocalypse are galloping, plague and famine. Let's start. All we are seeing is a meltdown of the financial system, just like chocolate in a chocolate factory. Get ready for a massive market meltdown, says Gerald Celente with Gregory Manarino in a video. Get ready for what is coming in these increasingly turbulent times. We are all very tired of waiting, including those who are trying to make this happen, and we want to see an end now. They want the QFS movement to disappear so they can keep their new restart plans and their 2030 agenda without living beings like us getting in their way. They are haughty enough to say we will never succeed, but they have us scared enough to send forget it messages in case there is even small chance we might make it. The mystery of time. Turn waiting into a kind of watch party. Stay focused and allow the drop to happen before anything changes hands. You keep hearing that this or that is going to happen. So be it. But time is a mystery that has to stay that way for now. Everything out there has to be transparent, and nothing can move until that happens. If we knew the date and time, we couldn't tell, but nobody knows. There are not going to be negotiations on this issue at this stage, and not until moves are made that bring the desired objectives and then results to be to the forefront. But no, that won't happen yet. The good guys are in place, not in total control, but in place. You have been patient all this time. What's a couple more weeks at this point? Sign it, poofness. Says Jin the Code, in quotes, the amount of gold, silver, platinum and diamonds that exist on this planet is very evident now that the special forces have gone into underground tunnels, and the amount of gold they have found is more than they thought existed on Earth times 100 times over. The miraculous is yet to come, abundance and healing for all, and peace on earth for living beings of goodwill. God wins. Volatility. In early 2022, markets experienced extreme volatility due to concerns about rising inflation and interest rates. The New York Stock Exchange would face a summer from hell, and it could be just beginning. Major investors say it would bring an almost biblical reckoning to the market. Well, that summer of hell seems to have come early. The market has done nothing but fall, recording its worst trading days since the first week of the crisis. And while the sell-off is ugly, it is clear that this is not over. A stock market meltdown is a sudden and dramatic fall in share prices in a major cross-section of an exchange, resulting in a significant loss of paper wealth. Crashes are triggered by panic selling and underlying economic factors. They often follow speculation and economic bubbles. It's like a game. There is a game called Market Meltdown that takes place in a time of financial chaos, when the general public has lost faith in the ability of banks to safely house their deposits and withdraws their money and transfers in plural into their mattress. The players represent the traders who invest the money on behalf of the banks. As the game progresses, players face increasing pressure to generate higher profits to pay deposits and stay afloat. The winner is the player who stays afloat when their opponents have gone. Tips for keeping a cool head in a market collapse. Don't overreact. Turn off the TV. This is not the time to listen to breaking news every 5 minutes. Be clear about your long-term goals to avoid falling into the chaos of the present. Keep calm and pass the ketchup to enjoy the meal. Practice a rebalancing act every time you lose your balance. Look at China. When Shanghai sneezes, Wall Street not only catches a cold, but also becomes hypochondriacal. Ride out the turbulence by keeping the rattler of your life straight. When things look down, look up. Don't listen to bubble alarmism. Adopt a dog. Take it for a walk and stop watching the news. Humankind all over the world is looking for growth, says Jeske. That's why economies everywhere where living things have some leeway tend to be resilient and tend toward long-term growth. Message from the angles. Tell yourself often, my life is good, I am good, there are good people in the world. Indeed, there are horrible things happening in the world, but there are also countless acts of love and goodness. You can focus on what others want, or you can focus on what you choose to focus on. Definition. To melt is to melt and liquefy metals or other solid bodies. It is also to reduce two or more different things to one thing, or to ruin a power apparatus or electrical device. The weak merge to become stronger, while the powerful try to divide the weak to avoid competition. The current fusion process is using the cinematic technique of mixing the last tag moments of one image or sound with the first moments of a different, much brighter sequence. They do this to prevent the change from being too abrupt so that we don't get scared. That's where we are now. In a fusion, nothing is wasted, but everything is recycled to transform it into something new. Every material has a melting point, but I don't know the melting point of the system. Knowing the melting point of the financial system would be the key to finding out the changes. A merger is an agreement that joins two existing companies into a new company. A bank merger is a transaction in which two or more banks dissolve and transfer their assets and liabilities to another entity in order to create a new entity. But what exists now is not a two-way game, but a conglomerate. This is a merger between two or more companies or systems engaged in unrelated activities that may operate in different sectors or in different geographical regions. This is precisely what is happening right now, but not between two banks, but between multiple obsolete systems. When material is melted down, it is to be put into new molds. A merger is a union of interests, ideas, or power factions, and in economics, it is the integration of several companies into a single entity, which is usually legally regulated to avoid excessive concentration of market power. In physics, nuclear fusion is the joining of two atoms, which is the opposite of fission, which is the breaking apart of an atom. Nuclear fusion is a reaction produced by the union of two lighter atomic nuclei, which give rise to a heavier nucleus, releasing energy. Solar energy originates from the fusion of two hydrogen nuclei into one helium nucleus. This fusion is causing a great deal of energy that affects us all, and even the climate, the weather. System integration. Systems in plural. Systems integration is defined in engineering as the processing of linking component subsystems into a single system and ensuring that the subsystems function together as a single system, and in information technology as the process of physical or functionally linking different computer systems and software applications to act as a coordinated whole. Data fusion is the set of methods of meshing information from very different and sometimes non-homogeneous sources into a synergistic and powerful result. Data fusion is of particular importance in any application where a large amount of data must be combined, merged, and grouped to obtain the appropriate quality and integrity of the decisions to be made. This is exactly the same technique I used to write my pieces. Fusion cuisine is a concept used in gastronomy to indicate the blending of culinary styles from different cultures, the mixing of ingredients representative of different countries, the blending of seasonings or spices, and so on. This is precisely what is happening right now with the fusion of different cultures and spiritual traditions of humankind. The advantage of data fusion is that the redundant information can reduce uncertainty and increase the accuracy with which features are perceived by the system. In addition, complementary information from several sensors allows characterizing the perceived environment in a way that would be impossible to perceive using only the information from each sensor separately. Data fusion or sensor fusion and integration is present in areas of robotics, biomedical systems, military systems, surveillance equipment, remote sensing, transportation systems, process control, and information systems. Data fusion is of particular importance in driving through autonomous systems in all their applications. In principle, the autonomous data fusion process allows combining measurements and information to deliver knowledge complete enough to make decisions. Economic system. An economic system is a set of actions that contribute to the economic situation of a society and its development. economic activities or trade are carried out to generate money and taxes. A system of economic problems such as scarcity through the allocation of limited resources and products, because there is an old economic doctrine of scarcity that is being replaced by another doctrine of abundance based on technological capacity to increase production for the benefit of all. Economic systems are defined as the forms of economic, social, and political organization that societies adopt to solve or meet the needs of their citizens. Every economic system must provide answers to the questions of what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. The way these three questions are answered determines the type of economic systems. The fragility of the world economic system is becoming more and more evident as the crisis in Western countries closely resembles that suffered during the last decade of the 20th century by various peripheral countries, such as those in the Americas. This has led to the current job insecurity, which is collateral effects evidenced by a high percentage of families with unstable or non-existent incomes, as well as increased delinquency, which are evidence of the social chaos produced by external impositions. News of the reset, or reset news. Two horsemen of the apocalypse are galloping, plague and hunger. Manufactured inflation is one of the tools. Record fuel prices are part of it. We are inside the black swan since the war began. The time has come. Get ready and then sit back and watch the show. The matrix is broken. No country accepts old fiat currencies except in public areas. The only way they exist now is to siphon money from the population only if we allow it. The more we disconnect from the matrix, the faster the old will collapse, and the new system will be ready for installation. The expectation now rests solely on the general public. The BRICS countries have expanded. All of them are now activating their gold and precious metal-backed currencies in the new QFS. The BRICS group of countries is now BRICS Plus, or BRICS Plus, and includes Turkey, Argentina, Egypt, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Nigeria, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Thailand, Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, which will join soon. According to Fulford, high-level talks are progressing well between the elders of Asia and the West to usher in a new golden age for humankind. The main agreement envisages the total cancellation of all public and private debts, a unique redistribution of assets, and a massive campaign to eradicate poverty, halt environmental degradation, and colonize the universe with terrestrial life. But this will come at the end. This plan is backed by the Western Committee of 300, the Indian government, and the Asian secret societies that control China, Asia, Korea, and Japan, among others. Supply crisis. USA. Gasoline has almost reached the incredible mark of $10 per gallon. Shortages of food, fuel, goods, and transport. Thousands of Britons stranded at airports as EasyJet cancels 80 more flights. A huge column with the slogan "No farmers, no food" in quotes is marching through the Netherlands against the government's policy. Asia. US and South Korea fire 8 missiles in response to North's earlier launch. US conducts naval exercises with South Korea to show it will respond sternly to any North Korean provocation. Lebanon calls Israel's attempt to produce gas in a disputed maritime area, in quotes, a provocation and an hostile act. China. Beijing relaxes some of its restrictions. China continues construction of its space station. China points out that Washington invested 400 times more in Ukraine than in economic cooperation with Asian countries. The commemoration of the Tiananmen massacre is again silenced in Hong Kong. Taiwan policy is as clear as mud. The State Department has withdrawn a statement that it does not support Taiwan independence to please China. Biden recently declared that he would defend Taiwan if attacked by China. Rumors of war. Special operation forces need artificial intelligence to make decisions. Government watchdog finds fault with the US Space Command. Canada says Chinese fighter jets harassed its patrol planes. Majority of Russians support war in Ukraine. Ukrainian plane with weapons shot down by Russia near Odessa. CNN said the Pentagon is coordinating the Ukrainians' actions. The economic crisis is forcing the US and Europe to seek a compromise with Russia. The US, the European Union and the UK are discussing the terms of a ceasefire in Ukraine. Italy's Berlusconi dismisses Russia isolation and calls liberal world order an optical illusion. War rages on both sides with no sign of abating. Putin accuses the West of prolonging the war in Ukraine as long as possible with its arms shipments. Russia says it has destroyed tanks and armored vehicles from Europe in Kiev. The head of the Hungarian parliament announced Zelensky's mental problems. Russia would attack other targets in case of supply of long-range missiles to Ukraine. All against Russia. In quotes, there can be no peace in Europe without Russia, was once the mantra of European political philosophers, according to Phil Butler. Now they are determined to stifle this logic with propaganda and a proxy war that, according to strategists, would weaken Russia. Their strategy could starve half the world. Russian explorers spent 8 months at under 70 degrees Celsius, less and below zero, after a fire at a station in Antarctica. Ukraine. Trench warfare with no end in sight in Ukraine. US to send precision-guided missiles with a range of more than 60 kilometers to Ukraine. Ukraine gives assurances to the US that it will only use its missiles to defend itself. UK to send long-range missiles to Ukraine despite Russian warnings. If Ukraine had hit Russian cities, Russia would have hit the decision-making centers. Moscow will hit decision-making centers if Kiev uses US weapons against the territory of the Russian Federation, Medvedev said. The delivery of heavy weapons could lead to a superpower confrontation, a researcher warns. The Pentagon cannot report on money spent in Ukraine. Obsolete weaponry said to Ukraine it's prone to break down, experts say. Russia controls 20% of Ukraine in 100 days of war. Moscow says Ukraine recorded fake videos about the war. Russia warns US of a direct clash after sending more weapons to Ukraine. Russia is not going to leave the world economic arena, Putin said. Russia has additional oil revenues of $6.4 billion in June as prices rise. Senegal says Putin has shown readiness to free up Ukraine's grain exports. Russia is ready to let Ukrainian grain out of Mariupol through ports under its control. Putin says Ukrainian grain can be exported through Belarus. The people of Donbass will decide to join Russia in a referendum. Russian television broadcasts a discussion on the possibility of launching missiles against Berlin, Paris and London. Aeroflot suspends flights to Sri Lanka due to plane arrest. China. Shanghai neighborhoods return to containment a day after restrictions were eased. Chinese consumers are stuck at home but still spending big, says Alibaba. 100,000 Chinese officials attend emergency meeting to revive economy. China is a flagrant example of religious repression. The State Department criticizes China for committing genocide against the Uyghurs in its annual report on religious freedom. China calls on the US not to make it an imaginary enemy. Earthquake in southwest China leaves at least 4 dead and 14 injured. Chinese scientists perform the first fully robotic cloning of pigs. India launches its open network for digital commerce as an alternative to the giants. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.